fine, my brother.
Doc, I hope you got the opportunity to listen to the president yesterday.
Yes, I did.
What are your impressions? Okay, first of all, what were your expectations and were these expectations met?
Well, the other time we spoke, remember, I advocated for unconventional solutions. But it looks as if the president was just touching on things and prescribing solutions we already know. There wasn't anything novel in it. Because government is supposed to crack down on anything illegal. So asking the Bank of Ghana to enhance their supervisory role, for me, is so marginal. It's part of the mediocrity that has characterized the government lately. So I don't see that really turning things around as quickly as every Ghanaian expect. Black market existed since the kingdom started. So if you crack down on the people involved in black market, it's not a solution. It's something that is already in the pipeline. So my expectation was that he was going to come up with certain tangible and conventional ways of dealing with the short-term issues, and then try to also look into the future, because the production side is always the problem. We always need to reduce imports and then consume our own. But these things he just goes over them, because one district, one factory hasn't yielded anything all along. So if you are banking your hope on it, in fact, it's a misplaced priority, because already it's not already producing anything where you can, want them to accelerate. They don't produce that much. So imports are still dominating everywhere. So he did not go to the fundamentals of the problem, but rather just prescribe solutions. For me, that will not, give us the results that we expect.
What were the fundamental issues that you expected him to touch on? Because you just talked about the issue of imports as against the consumption, where we produce locally, increasing production locally. Which other issues did he miss?
Well, in the short term, because Ghana spent a lot on energy, fuel. So I wanted him to come up with something tangible that could reduce consumption of it, deal with conservation. Once you conserve, it means that demand is going to go down, and then price will also go down. And the less we import, because we import petroleum products. So once we can reduce the consumption at home, it means that imports will also go down. But I didn't see that, so pronounced in the speech. Because if you do that, for example, mass transit can help. Some radical change could help reduce our addiction to, petrol, and that can majorly reduce imports. And then with the mining companies also, basically he asked them to pass their earnings through the banks. And whether they pass it through or not, at some point they will repatriate it. So you have to deal with the fundamental. My proposition is that you should mandate them to buy some investments in Ghana. And once they buy those investments, they will retain some of their earnings, and that can really shore up the city. So the president was just repeating things that every basic economist know. That, and then he talks about a lot of abstracts. Somewhere he said inflows of dollars. Where are the dollars coming from? He never touched the national debt, which is one of the causes of the problems we are in now. He did not touch on, most of the fundamental issue. In the short term, what are we doing in agriculture? Whatever we earn from the windfall of changes in crude price, oil. I mean, some of the exports of the mining and those in the energy sector, because of the price changes, there's a windfall from it. Where are we investing it? Why are we not investing it in agriculture? So that we can, for example, within a couple of months, stop importing tomatoes from Burkina Faso. And then poultry products, we could have done it within a short period of time if investments could go in there immediately. So some of these fundamental issues he did not touch. Even his description of the economy was so basic. He tried to look at it at the global level rather than the local level, and then the comparison with Togo, our neighbors and all that, for me, that was a sign of mediocrity, because Ghana's economy was doing very well. If you look at what measures that were taken during Muhammad's time, if we had followed through them, our economy would have been able to resist the kind of challenges that we are facing today.
And let me go back to what he said about the imports, because you raised it. I heard him say that they are working on reviewing the standards required for imports into the country, because he felt that there were some goods that we consume in large quantities that we can immediately deal with. And I'm guessing you heard that. Is it not enough to say we are working at it, or you expect to hear something much more tangible?
Well, in the West, we call it the drive-by, because you just driving by the problem rather than, get a hold of it and try to deal with it. And that's basically what he did. Because some of these things were pretty abstract. He will tell you, we're going to do this and do that, which we already know. Because he talked about changing the structure of the economy when he was in opposition. And it has been something everybody know. Introducing a mantra, for me, is even the worst part of it. We all know that exports must go up, increase, and then imports must reduce. So some of these things we already know, like I said, but I wanted tangibles. In the short term, what is he doing? What is he doing about cutting down expenditure? His office alone is one of the nemesis of, of our country, because expenditure has gone up. He never touched on corruption, because corruption is also taking, from Mohammed's speech, is about 17 billion every year. That's so significant. So some of these things, I was expecting that he will come up with, like I said the other time, unconventional solutions. You see, in the short term, what is he going to do so that when we wake up tomorrow, we can see things happening in the market that depicts exactly what he wants to accomplish? But I believe today we will not see that. So it means that President was just speaking to placate people who are getting angry that our country is under the influence of his mismanagement. So we should, continue to have national dialogue. I think he meeting a lot of stakeholders was a good idea. But I would want to see what tangible resolutions they came up with in order to deal with the economy. And why didn't he include the opposition in such dialogue? At least take some of the advice they're giving him. And that will make him, because in times of crisis, if you are still owning up to some of these things, like he's in charge and he has to provide the solutions, it can't work. He needs to broaden his pool of advisors by getting in the opposition to also be part of the conversation on what we can do to deal with the crisis we are in today.
Let me conclude with you by going back to the issue of debts. Now, the last time when the former president spoke, before he spoke, in fact, the address we heard was from the minority spokesperson on finance, Dr. Salifu. It seemed the president was responding directly to his suggestion that what he called a haircut could not be avoided. The president said there will be no haircut. I think you understand these terms better. Can the president give such an assurance?
Well, you see, that's what I already talked about. The fundamental things that he didn't talk about, and one of it was the national debt, which is our nemesis. See, the national debt contributes significantly to many countries facing the problems they're facing today. It's not COVID, it's not whatever. Because when you borrow excessively, and because of the corrupt practices in our country, most of these inflows that comes as a result of borrowing, they basically sometimes send them back to wherever, spending on things abroad. So in the end, you'll find a situation where we are still running short of dollars, but we are supposed to pay our debt back in dollars. So in the end, the country is so burdened because what Dr. Akufo-Addo was talking about was to make sure that we do some, like debt restructuring can be a very good way of doing the haircut. I mean, reducing the burden of servicing debt. Because when you restructure, the interest rate, because sometimes it's negotiations that produces whatever you restructure. And these negotiations can help to reduce your interest rate or even monthly payment and free some financial space that can allow you to attend to other problems. But the president didn't even touch on national debt. What to talk of telling us what he would do apart from what Dr. Faustin prescribed.
So, as I saying, there will be no haircut. You expected, then your question was, then what will be the solution? He didn't provide a solution for you?
Right, he did not, because he didn't touch national debt at all. Because the issue is that if you have this high debt, from President Mohammed's speech, it's about 522 billion. That's a lot of money. And to service a debt of that magnitude, we really deplete our revenue. And the president is basically telling IRS, go after people who are businesses that are struggling to pay taxes. And that is going to really cause more problems, because the more these businesses are taxed, the more their activities slow down. And then you can't get more to tax. Government revenue goes down. Your ability to help the CD and inflation is also going to be affected, because the inflation is fueled by our addiction to imports. CD is not doing well, we still need to import. So we don't have enough dollars to keep our addiction to imports.
And you said his description of the economy, you have a difficulty with it. He called it, we're in a difficult situation. You said that description. What would you say?
I'll say we are in a mess. We are in the quagmire. A whole lot of times we can use, because this was happening. A whole lot of things were going on. People were telling him, but he was.
Well, we seem to have lost Dr. Justice Salifu, but I think basically what we were looking for, we've gotten from him. He is